Hi everyone, we're going to get started. It will. If everyone can grab a seat, please, we're going to get started so we can get out on time. Hi everyone. So if you do not know who I am, my name is Paul Bazin and I am your past chair for the PAS board. That is a new role for us, but we thought it was important for us to have that transition moving forward, just to ensure that the memory on the board continues an additional year. And so what we have here is an agenda, but before we get started, I'd just like to ensure we have quorum. So can I just have a show of hands to see how many here are members? Perfect. Great. Thank you very much. So again, thank you. Welcome to the conference. We're very excited to have you guys here today. So first off, you see the agenda in front of you. You also will notice on the tables there's going to be our annual report, an agenda, and last year's minutes. So you have them for your review, although I'm sure you guys all read that email we sent to you earlier ahead of time so you're prepared for today's meeting. With that, can I have an approval of the 2019 agenda? George, followed by Justin. Thank you. All in favor? Great, thank you. So what I'd like to do is just make an announcement of our new board of directors. We had our elections here recently, and we had a very good showing, actually, which was great to see. We had lots of names come in and a wide variety of experiences and geographic location, which is great for us as a board to have that mix. So you'll see here that our new chair is John Stansley. Our new vice chair is George Forno. I am your past chair, and then we have Amy Lamb, Lindsay Ziegler, Robin Despins, Warren Delmage, Monique Swack, and Cordell Hilderman as our board. So if you can congratulate them, I'd appreciate it. And then in our appointed members, we have Dr. Kishore Wasan for a little bit longer. Laura Almas is our CSHP rep. Palima Sharatha is our senior stick. And then Christine Haruka is our CPHA representative. So the minutes from last year's AGM are there. Can I have any, I guess before we go into the motion, is there any questions or concerns with the minutes? Didn't think so. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as written? Rod, Amaya, and Laura, seconded by Laura. Thank you. All in favor? Any abstentions? Any opposed? Great. Thank you. Passed. So in terms of the business arising from the minutes of last year, there are none. Great. So financial matters, I will pass this on to Don.
Thank you, Paul, and good morning, everybody. We'll take you through a really quick summary of our financials. You have the annual report in front of you, which contains that. The more in-depth financial report is on our website for all of you. I know that we'll be excited to do a quick review of that. But we'll keep it pretty high level. And on the highlights here, our membership numbers stayed relatively consistent with incremental growth again. This is fairly consistent through the years. We had an excess of revenues over expenses of about $71,400, which is about 6% of our overall budget. Our operating expenses increased by just about $57,000, about 6%, primarily due to advocacy, issues management, and public education initiatives approved by the board, but then also additional transition costs on building occupancy between the old office and new, and a little bit of increased salary costs. Staffing and benefits are the largest portion of our costs, very consistent with other nonprofit organizations. But we sit at about the 41% of overall costs, the folks doing the work. The board directed a transfer of a cumulative operational surplus. So each year, over the time that I had been here, we had a little bit of a surplus that built up. So we wanted to take that, make it work a little bit better as part of our investments, which, as probably everybody knows, didn't really work over the first 6 months, but it's recovering and investments are coming back up again. That's essentially a bit of a rainy day fund or emergency fund that the board wanted to make sure we had available, just in case anything were to happen with the organization and our funding. So really quick overview there. It's pretty straightforward. Things look good in the short term. We'll probably discuss a little bit more around our membership revenue and some challenges that we foresee coming down the pipe there. So we certainly encourage everybody to continue to get their membership and to be engaged in the association. So that is my very quick, very high-level report. And is there any questions at all that you have for me? Great. Paul, do you want to?
Thank you, Don. So can I have a motion to approve our financial statements as presented and provided? Harold, thank you. And seconded by George. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstain? Great. Okay, so we also are looking to reappoint the auditor that we've had for a number of years now. So we're recommending that we reappoint Myers, Norris and Penny as our PAS auditor. And if I could have a motion for that as well. Paul Melnick, followed by Cordell. All in favor? Great. Any opposed or abstentions? Awesome. So now we're going to go into our reports. We'll start off with myself. So in the past, I've often just kind of outlined some of the major things that are going on. And I decided this year to do something a little bit different just because of the environment that we're in, the pressures that we're experiencing on a number of fronts, both economically and professionally, that I wanted to address it a slightly different way. So first off, I'm very excited to be handing over the chair position to John. You guys are going to be in great shape with John. He is an incredible mind and is very knowledgeable of the profession and will represent all of you very well in the coming year or two. That said, as we know, there are significant amounts of pressures that pharmacists and pharmacies are facing right now. We're seeing pressures on numerous fronts, both economically and professionally in a number of ways. And so I wanted to be very open and transparent and show you a lot of what your association is confronted with in a number of different ways and some of the things that we're doing on your behalf to ensure that we're ensuring pharmacy is a viable profession, a profession that people want to be in and continues to be something that is very important. And so with that, I'd like to talk about a few of the major issues. So first and foremost, as I'm sure everyone in this room is aware, the Pan-Canadian pricing adjustments in 2018 were significant. So in Saskatchewan, we projected that costed pharmacies about $6 million last year alone. And over the 5-year contract, we're seeing it as closer to $50 million. So that is a significant amount of revenue coming out of our 370 pharmacies. And so obviously that is something that we needed to find a way to recoup. And so thankfully, with our negotiation strategy and our incredible amount of work done on advocacy with government, we were able to sign the only positive pharmacy contract in Canada last year with our new agreement that we had in October. That agreement saw reinvestments, anywhere in the 60 to 70% range of what we lost, and we were seeing significant improvements in areas such as injections. We saw an increase in our fee, in our dispensing fee, which is fairly unheard of right now. We also saw added benefits in other areas, minor ailments for one. And so that is something that we are very proud of, and as a province we should be very happy with. Many of our other colleagues in other provinces saw significant hits on their contracts in addition to the Pan-Canadian pricing loss. And so we're very happy with that. And that comes from a lot of the work that we do on an advocacy front. Our association has really started to focus on putting way more resources into advocacy. And that goes to all stakeholders, but a huge part of that is with government. Government has the ability to control significant levers that can have huge impacts on our pharmacies very quickly. As some of you have probably heard, in Ontario and other provinces, there's been significant shifts recently, and that can happen without our knowledge even, or without even discussions with us. And so we need to ensure that government and those making those decisions, those stakeholders that make decisions, are keenly aware of what we can do for them, why we're here, and our value to the system. And so you will see moving forward that PAS is going to continue to put significant resources into advocacy to maintain strong relationships with our stakeholders. Government is, Keish talked about it last night, about relationships between stakeholders here in Saskatchewan, and that is part of our environment. It's also part of the people that are there, but it's also part of the hard work that we put in and day out to ensure that happens, because it is easy to stray in different directions, especially from a government perspective when they're seeing huge amounts of pressures to try to find savings. And so for us to be able to maintain that relationship and continue to build on what we're looking to do in our new contract, as the one we signed last year was only a one-year deal, we're looking to see continued improvement moving forward. In addition to that, we're seeing pressures in a lot of other areas, and they're areas that we're not generally used to seeing pressures. For example, wholesalers in Canada are feeling a huge amount of pressure with the generic pricing changes as well. And the reason why that's important to pharmacies and pharmacists in this room is because if wholesalers aren't doing well financially, then they may start making changes to their funding models, which could mean deliveries less often, less access to medications in rural and remote parts of the province, less access to medications, period, as they can stop carrying certain molecules. As we see, drug shortages are already a huge issue in our province and across the country. And if we have challenges with our wholesalers where they are starting to see financial challenges, then they may further reduce accessibility, which is hugely important to us to ensure that we ensure that accessibility is there for our members across the province. And so we are working with many different stakeholders to ensure that the viability of pharmacies from that perspective is maintained as well. In addition, I'm sure some of you have heard that e-prescribing is being piloted here in Saskatchewan shortly. E-prescribing is potentially a very good resource that can help pharmacies in terms of saving funds or saving time, but there may be additional costs associated with it that we're working very hard to control to ensure that we're not seeing additional costs onto our pharmacies on top of what we're already seeing. And so we're working with governments and our government, eHealth, and other stakeholders to ensure that those pressures are mitigated as much as possible, and that we have as much influence as we can on the rollout of these programs, and that we're at the table. And I will say that a lot of the work done, again, by our association has led to Dawn being co-chair to the rollout of this pilot and this program, which gives us a huge amount of visibility and ensures that everyone there is aware of the concerns that we have around some of the other pieces, whether it be funding or otherwise. As you know, third-party payers are another challenge, and this is consistent across the country, but we're seeing more and more clawbacks, audits. We're seeing issues with 100-day supply, of course, which is also a whole other ball of wax I'm not even going to get into right now. But that is something that we're continuing to work with through our partners with CPHA and our other provincial associations. We're much better talking as a country than we are trying to talk as a province when it comes to those types of challenges. And we're working very closely with our other partners and colleagues in other provinces and nationally to ensure that we're doing what we can there. And this also falls with NIHB and the challenges we're seeing with billing. We know that there's lots there that can be done, and we're continuing to work hard to ensure that it's sustainable for everybody. In addition to that, we're seeing added pressures potentially through the NAPRA compounding guidelines that might be changing, and we're working closely with our colleagues to ensure that that's something that continues to remain. The accessibility and the financial viability of compounding continues to be there so that we aren't losing access, especially in rural and remote communities across the province. And then with all of this, there's also potentially regulatory changes and other changes that have impact on the bottom line that we need to ensure when we're looking at all of these pressures coming from all these directions and money coming off all over the place, that we're ensuring that businesses are viable so that pharmacists can do what we've been trained to do, and that's provide excellent patient care to the province of Saskatchewan. And so what you're going to see, and what you probably have started seeing, is PAS has done a lot more work on the public education campaigns that we've done. We've started using social media a lot more. Hopefully some of you are seeing on your Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds PAS advertising. That's targeted advertising that we're doing to ensure that we're hitting the right people with the right products. We want our patients and the province to know what pharmacists can do. And a huge example of this is our UTI prescribing and birth control prescribing. So when that was rolled out, government wasn't interested in paying for it. We started putting it out in social media and that we could do these things. And government was getting pressure from women's groups saying that why are women's minor ailments not being paid for? And so that's what led to them wanting to pay for that program. It's just the public pressure and perception of what that is. And so if we can continue to educate our patients, the public, the environment of what we can do, that is going to be our best motivator for change moving forward. My goal now, as I'm leaving the association, is to ensure that I'm educating my colleagues and helping foster an area where pharmacists are more comfortable reaching out to MLAs, MPs, and important decision makers in their environments to help motivate and for them to understand change. If your regional representatives in your districts, in your cities, in your towns understood the economic impacts that first your pharmacies bring to that area, but also the impacts of what some of the decisions they may make will have on their areas, they're very keen to listen. And so I've spent a lot of time touring the province over the last year and speaking to many, including my own regularly. And those regular touch points make a huge, huge difference. And so my ask is from all of you to consider doing that more often. You have my support, and I know that the board is looking at finding a way to provide tools for our pharmacists to be more comfortable to do those types of things, to go out and reach out to their local representatives with the information that they need so that you can comfortably talk about the issues that are likely affecting you and your communities. And we really want to ensure that the people that make the decisions are keenly aware of not only some of the risks that we have, but also what we can do to help them. We have a significant opportunity in the sense that we are everywhere. We are in every community or most communities, and in a lot of places we are the only healthcare professional in that community. And so there's a huge opportunity for us to ensure that we are able to provide these services. And a great example of that just recently is the exemption for methadone. And I think SCPP leading that was fantastic. And I know that Don and the team at the office also were helping in that regard to ensure that those patients have access to that information or that access to that medication in a very short time. And those are the types of things that the government is starting to see that we can do. The Minister of Health just said yesterday in an interview that, with the loss of the physicians, they're obviously very concerned, but it was all hands on decks and pharmacists really stepped up to the plate and are helping us out. And so that just shows the change in perception of what our government sees in our value, and we need to ensure that we're continuing to educate those decision makers about what we can do. So that's kind of the biggest thing I wanted to talk about. And the last thing I'm going to say is that, if there's anything you take away from it, yes, we've got lots of pressures, but we also have a huge amount of opportunity right now. Pharmacy is in a position where we have the ability and we have the knowledge and we have the accessibility to take on a lot of the needs that our healthcare system needs. Governments are looking to save money. They can't afford the system that exists. And we are a great option in a lot of these services. But what we also need to ensure is that pharmacists are comfortable doing the types of things that are going to be asked of us moving forward. And so we all know the viability from the dispensing side of the business is getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and we need to be comfortable shifting our focus and being more focused on the needs of the system and really what we've been trained to do, which is provide excellent patient care. So with that, I'll leave it at that, and I will go on to our next report, which is of Don.
Great, thank you, Paul. I think I'm probably just going to say ditto and sit down again. But maybe just a couple of things in addition to what Paul has already talked about is we've actually begun the process again for the next contract. That's some of the challenge of having just a one-year contract is you pretty much put one to bed and you start the process all over again. So we have renewed our Economics Committee membership. We've got another good, strong group of folks with different experiences to help navigate us through that process. We've also received feedback from our PAS Pharmacy Affairs Advisory Committee, which is a larger group of folks who come from different provinces and have responsibility for Saskatchewan, just to make sure that we understand where they think our priorities should lay. The economics group will take that information and we'll start building our platform again and start having some discussions before summer with the ministry folks and start the process over again. So just so that you're aware, that's what we'll be working on. I think the other thing, too, just again to note and repeat, I think what people have been saying, as stakeholders and as pharmacy partners in this world, I find it incredibly gratifying to be able to continue to work, even though we may not agree, and there's lots to not agree on in our world right now. But with SCPP and the university and others, we get to be at the table talking. And I think it's really, really important. And I think it's a very made in Saskatchewan kind of approach. And like I said, we won't always agree, but we agree to be talking. And I think that's really, really critical here. So thanks to SCPP, thanks to the trainers out of the university, Quiche, it's really a great hospital pharmacy. Honestly, it's just really important, I think, for us to continue to be together and in this crazy environment. Paul has spoken to most of the other things here. The only other thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit of, we continue to have a little bit of stink coming from the physicians that we continue to manage, but it does appear to be sort of calming a little bit. And I'm going to just watch as Ontario goes through all of that and provide them with any perspective and help that I can. I think we're reaching a new place on that front, I hope. It's still every now and then something pops up and we just sort of address it. SCPP does as well. So we're hoping that things have calmed a little bit and we can just move into new territory here as we go forward. But Ontario looks like they're heading down that early path. So we'll see how it all goes. They've got a lot going on. Just a multitude of small and large things to manage, and Christiana will speak about this. Flu vaccine supply management, you all had to worry about that. We've got a new cancer agency partnership, which I think is really unique, and I'm excited to move into that with Lana and others. We've got SMAP audit and all of the things around that we need to work on, and provincial and national media and policy issues. It never kind of stops, as you all are very painfully aware. So other than that, and everything that Paul said, I think that's really my generalized report. Did you have any questions or anything you wanted to raise right now? We've got issues forum coming up, so that's plenty of opportunity for you all to step up and ask any questions that you have on any initiatives as well. So anything right now? Cool, okay, then maybe what I'll do is ask Christiana to come up and give you her Director of Professional Practice report.
Hi, everybody. I know most of the people here in the audience, but if you haven't met me before, my name is Christiana Goodmanson, and I'm the Acting Director of Professional Practice. We're just going to hit some of the highlights here. With the flu program this year, this was the first season of the expanded program where we were having people go out into and do home visits and congregate living and really trying to focus on those high-risk patients that didn't have the same accessibility to get the flu immunization. And then the age was dropped down to 5 from 9, so that was a new patient category that we were able to provide those services. At the end of March, we had 154,892 doses that were administered by pharmacists. That's about 50%. So you can see that it increased about 35,000 compared to last year. We did have unprecedented demand for it. The province had a 14% increase in doses administered across the province by all providers. So pharmacists were able to still do like that 50%. So that was really good. And you can see year after year that last year, compared to last year, it was up 32%, the 71 from the percent the year before, and 178 from the year before that. So everybody did a really good job making sure that that accessibility was out there. Just a reminder of if there's any documents that you haven't filled out by mistake, if you can get those in, because I know the season just ended for those little guys, the 5 to 8, and any of the notice of vaccination needs to be sent into the ministry there. We also collaborated with the drug plan, the ministry, SCPP and CPDPP around the travel health portfolio, and work is ongoing with that, and lots of work is being done there. One of the things that Dawn kind of talked about was the partnership to assist in cessation of tobacco. We have a partnership with the Saskatchewan Cancer Agency. So it's really important if you're a PAC-trained pharmacist that your contact information is up to date. So make sure you talk to Michelle or I, or drop us an email to make sure that's up. What we have been able to do is have where each patient, they have an initiative in the Cancer Agency where they want to make sure each patient is asked about their tobacco use and that they are able to have some help there. So they developed a referral form that they will refer a patient to a PAC-trained pharmacist, and the patient has the option to choose PAC counseling or the tobacco cessation aid prescribing. So those are options there. So it's really exciting to see that come about. And the timing is actually really great because we have been slowly migrating everything from the Make a Pact website over to the PAS website. And we've been also, with the collaboration, we're updating a few of the modules. So the oncology, the quitting commercial tobacco, and the youth module. All right, so then when we look at the different minor ailments, with the new contract, we had 10 more minor ailments that were part of our billable services. And so when we look at the fiscal year that we have between 2018 and 2019, and it runs from that April 1st to March 31st, we saw large increases. So there's all the 10 different conditions that were added, and the tobacco cessation, most of them came in except for tobacco cessation beginning in November, and tobacco cessation was in December. We had a new service that was funded, the injection administration fee, and that's for the medroxyprogesterone. And so when we look at the fiscal year, some of the highlights are our billable services are about $1 million higher than previous years. The minor ailments, even though the new ones came in partway through the fiscal year, we see an increase of about $200,000 there. And with the injection administration fee just starting in November, there's already about $14,000 there. So good job. And then just kind of a few different things that we're involved with and that we do in daily activities at the office is we've increased our support with the expanded program with the influenza season, and some of those documents were created and updated depending on what they were to suit the situation. Continued activities, we were talking about the third-party payer working group, which is at that national level, being part of that collective voice, having those discussions and putting our concerns forward and learning from other provinces what kind of risks and strategies that they're using to be as successful with that. And another one of the things that we did was we partnered with the Saskatchewan Health Authority. They developed a new form for the discharge transfer forms, and we were just partnering with them to get the feedback from the community of how the forms were doing, to give them the feedback so that that transition of care goes a little bit more smoothly. With that, is there any questions specifically for me? All right, thank you. So I'll hand it back.
Christine, would you like to come do the CPHA?
Okay.
Thanks so much, Paul and Dawn. Good morning. My name's Christina Rudka. I am the Saskatchewan representative on the CPHA board, and fortunately, I am chair of the board this year, and my position has just been renewed for one more year. So I will be in this role till 2020, and I welcome you. Our board, I guess I would like to say, if I was to define it, it's kind of like my shoes. We're being brave. And it's something that is needed right now in this time. So as you probably know, or just in case you don't, 5 years ago, CPHA totally redid its whole model. And we now, instead of having individual members, our members are each province. So that is why Saskatchewan and all 10 provinces are who our members are. And you become a member of CPHA through your PAS membership. Now, I know I'm speaking in this room to the converted because you are all PAS members, but I know you have colleagues that aren't and therefore aren't members of CPHA. So I would ask that you encourage them to take out a PAS membership. So, of course, you have a CPHA membership. So on our slides, mission, vision, and our strategic plan, 3 things. We're here to advocate. We're here to expand what we do, and we know we need to have financial sustainability, which is a problem all across this country. As we look at all of our members, and PAS is very fortunate to have a fairly stable financial model. Some of our other members, provinces, really don't have that, and it's a real concern. And so is our sustainability model a concern. So, advocate, what do we do? So we helped each province by creating the Rethink Pharmacists, and I hope you've seen billboards. You've seen it on the back of buses all over. We created the promo, and then we sent it out to all of our members across the country, hoping to get the word Rethink Pharmacists into everyone's mind. These are just all the things that we try to do to help every one of our members as provinces. Advancing the profession is our second real big goal. No other profession has people doing different things in every province across the country, except pharmacy. And it is a huge problem. So we are trying to bring up our whole profession to a standard of Saskatchewan and Alberta. And by the way, we are really fortunate in this country. Saskatchewan has one of the greatest scopes of practice, and we should be really proud and really thankful to the work that PAS does for that. But one of our goals at CPHA is we need to bring everyone else up to the standard of practice that we are doing here in Saskatchewan and even beyond in Alberta, where they have, they can prescribe any Schedule 1. So we have created a working group. Ray Joubert is on there, Derek Jorgensen. So I've got 2 people on there from Saskatchewan, which I was criticized for, but I said, hey, it's where all the smart people come from. So so we're working really hard to attempt to create this model, this gold standard of where we want to see pharmacy practice across the country. Other things we're trying to do, of course, medicinal cannabis. Our goal is to have medicinal cannabis being dispensed through pharmacies, as we believe that is the safest place for it to be, where patients have some oversight of a healthcare professional. I can't say that is moving along very fast, but I think as time goes on, I hopefully will occur in our realm. But sadly, and I have to tell you this, talk about what boards and decisions that can get made. And you think, oh, a board's just a board, and they doesn't have a lot of clout. Well, CPHA board 10 years ago said we don't want to have anything to do with medical cannabis. And that was the decision of the day. And now, of course, we are fighting through that process because it did come to us as a board. And it was made a decision that basically the argument was we don't want to get robbed. Well, here we have now all these opiates and much more dangerous products on our shelves. And yet, so, the thinking was a bit backwards 10 years ago, and it's going to take a lot for us to get this back from the mail order place. Financial capacity. So all of you have the blue book, and I call us the blue book is our gold. It is what has given CPHA its financial stability over the years. It was mandatory, but sadly enough, that's going to change. Nobody wants to have a book anymore, and as we as a board took a look at our financial model, even though we have money now, we know that the blue book is going to go away. The interesting part, we have gone into a digital space, but there's a lot more people in that space that we're competing with. So that's where, as a board, we have really tackled this problem and said, we know within 5 years, our CPS and our XTX is not going to be able to fund our advocacy and what we want to do and help our provinces. So we've created a business strategy driven by some of the entrepreneurs on the board, including myself, and looking to partner with interesting people that are interesting businesses that are strategic and that are pan-Canadian. And one of those partnerships was Pharmapod. We partnered with them, so they won the Ontario RFP, and then we also partnered with them financially across, so we can help them roll across Canada. So, these are just some of the things that we've decided that we need to do as we look down the road about financial sustainability for our organization. So I have to applaud my board for being forward-thinking and again, like I said, brave to start thinking differently. Membership, we cannot rely on memberships here if we want to have a strong advocacy voice across this country. Some of our member values, of course, the journal. Every member gets our journal. That's probably our biggest membership benefit, but there are some others there on the page, and I think in my report. And as chair, I decided that I wanted to tackle a few things that were close and dear to my heart. And one of them is, my slogan is, you can't be what you can't see. And that is called Women in Pharmacy Leadership. And over my career, I have seen less and less women being at board tables, on committees, as just being involved all the way up to the C-suite. And that's very concerning to me, considering we are 70% of this profession. And interesting, FIP, which is an international organization, went all across the world, and that number is pretty firm. Pharmacy now is 70% women and 30% men, and yet men hold 30% of all the higher up jobs. And so it has become, I have to say, my board's been very supportive. We put some money towards this initiative, and we have a summit coming, and we're going to tackle this issue about why is this, how do we get women to put their hands up and get involved, because that's where we need them at every board meeting, having our voices heard. So that we can lead the profession. So I will speak a little bit about it tonight. Also, Don's given me a couple of minutes on the agenda. So my last initiative personally is to unite us as a profession. Damn, it's not a good time for us to be all fighting with different interests, and it is really time. One reason government doesn't listen to us, not in this province, luckily, but federally, is that we have too many messages, too many splinter groups, all coming from different angles, and business, advocacy, frontline pharmacists, we all need each other. And we need to unite. And I hope over my next year, I hope to create some sort of unity within our profession so we can be more successful. So thank you so much. Keish, I hope to work with you in Ontario, which is kind of the center of the universe, and where we are having our biggest issues, really, with OPA. Trying to work collaboratively. So I'm hoping a change there is going to help us for sure. So
Saskatchewan's the best part of the universe.
yeah, yes, it is. Stronger together. Thanks so much. I don't need to question. To save the questions asked.
Does anyone have any questions for Christine? Great, thank you very much, Christine. So you'll also see our committee reports. There's written committee reports on the table in the book. I'm losing my mind on what it's called. The annual report, thank you, for the economics and professional practice committees. And so if there's any questions there, I could address them. But otherwise, is there any new business? Or any questions, comments, or any feedback from the group before we end our meeting today? Okay, then can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Tamara, thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. And what's going to happen, don't move. We're starting issues forum right now, so no one move. We're starting right now.